can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. Here are the facts. In earlier episodes, we covered the infamous father of public relations, Edward Bernays. Whether selling Americans bacon or swaying public opinion in favor of wars, Bernays left an indelible mark on the cultural consciousness of the United States and the world. And though he has since passed on, his legacy remains with us today. But how? Here's where it gets crazy. The methods pioneered by Bernays have become commonplace. Like Bernays, PR firms around the world work to skew customer and civilian opinion in favor of one product, government action, or another. And, like Bernays, some firms work to justify wars, often while remaining largely invisible to the public. For example, have you ever heard of a firm called Hill+Knowlton? According to their website, Hill+Knowlton Strategies offers senior counsel insightful research and strategic communications planning throughout the world. In 1990, this firm led a propaganda campaign to build support for American intervention in Kuwait as Saddam Hussein's Iraqi forces invaded. Yet many American citizens were emotionally distanced from this conflict between two foreign countries hundreds of miles away. And, sadly enough, many Americans couldn't identify Kuwait on a map, much less identify with its people. In an effort to build support, Hill+Knowlton didn't just employ Bernays' techniques, they expanded them. On October 10, 1990, a young woman using the pseudonym Nurse Naira told the Congressional Human Rights Caucus a terrifying story. According to her testimony, Iraqi soldiers were killing hundreds of premature babies in Kuwait, ripping them from their incubators. The story hit home, greatly affecting the legislators who heard it and, perhaps more importantly, influencing public opinion. President George H.W. Bush repeated this story several times while justifying an intervention in Kuwait. As the story grew in popularity, more rumors emerged that Iraqi forces were digging mass graves for Kuwaiti children, for example. The United Nations held a public forum to follow up on this news, and this meeting led to a UN vote approving the use of force against Iraq. As the 1992 documentary To Sell a War points out, the actions of the Hussein regime were brutal enough, even without the tremendous influence of Nurse Naira's story. But here's the thing. That's all it was, a story. A cleverly crafted piece of fiction designed to manipulate the masses into bankrolling a war. The young woman calling herself Nurse Naira was actually Naira al-Sabah, the daughter of Kuwait's ambassador to the United States, and she had been coached by Hill+Knowlton. Members of Congress did not know her real identity. As the facts emerged, Amnesty International recanted their original support of the claims, and according to Andrew Whitley of Middle East Watch, within 2 weeks of the liberation of Kuwait, it became apparent that the incubator story was false. Hill+Knowlton was paid over $10 million by a group called Citizens for a Free Kuwait, composed of private Kuwaiti citizens and government officials. The Kuwaiti ambassador to the United States maintains that there was no disinformation campaign, though Hill+Knowlton consulted with him personally. This is only one example of how PR firms can affect public opinion. Today, over 100 years since the birth of Edward Bernays, the techniques he refined have become both profoundly effective and widespread. So what does this teach us? Of course, this doesn't mean that all PR is bad, or that all information about war is propaganda. It does, however, mean that we must remain vigilant and inquisitive when presented with persuasive information. We must question our sources. The next time you hear a politician arguing for another war, remember to ask questions, to check the sources of the claims. Don't be taken in by well-written appeals to emotion. Instead, remember to ask yourself, is there something they don't want you to know?